Hey there, folks. I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and it's Billboard Breakdown. I don't remember. And here we go, the last week of the Billboard year for 2021, and it ends with an album bomb that didn't even happen, and a general feeling of being perpetually underwhelmed and yet vaguely disappointed. Sounds a lot like 2021 and the Hot 100, alright. Not the worst year that I have covered in this series, but certainly one where I feel like it should have been a lot better, and we'll drill into a lot more of that during the year-end list on the main channel, so stay tuned for that in a month and a bit. But in the meantime, our top 10, it's once again stable, and by that I mean that Easy on Me by Adele has really solidified her grip at number 1, courtesy of strength in every channel, and shockingly strong radio momentum. Honestly, I think the more interesting conversation will be if she can hold up against the rise of Christmas music in the next month or two, because Adele, right now, she's got enough momentum to probably do it. Hell, it's not like Stay by the Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber will be able to do much currently at number 2, given that it lags pretty much everywhere except in its radio margin, and even there I'd say it peaked. I'd argue that Industry Baby by Lil Nas X and Jack Harlow stands a slight chance of breaking past it, given that it does have better streaming, but its own radio is wavering right now, which is not a good sign. Then, thanks to the smallest of possible album boost, we saw Bad Habits by Ed Sheeran push to number 4, even as its radio implodes, but it was enough to get over top of Fancy Like by Walker Hayes at number 5. Thank the sales and the tanking radio for that. I'd say that could open up some space for Shivers by Ed Sheeran at number 6, given that it does seem to have some momentum, especially with the sales boost, just not quite enough yet. Although it did get over Way Too Sexy by Drake featuring Future and Young Thug at number 7, which despite some stable streaming seems to be losing traction on the radio. Good. Then we had the small pickup for Need to Know by Doja Cat at number 8, with the radio really in her corner in order to rise over Good For You by Olivia Rodrigo at number 9, and that seems like it's on its way out. But then we get the top 10 breakthrough I certainly did not want. Heat Waves by Glass Animals at number 10. Now this has had a 42-week rise to the top 10, thanks to consistent streaming and the radio finally getting on board with it. I mean, I would applaud the tenacity to work a track this long by a relative unknown act outside of the indie or festival circuit, but I've already made my opinions on this album that this song came from very clear just last year, so it'll be interesting to see if the Heat Waves survive the holiday rush. That's all I'll say. But now on to our losers and dropouts. The big one in the latter category is Thought Shit by Megan Thee Stallion, but she clinched the year-end list handily here. Also, Ain't Shit by Doja Cat and a few remaining Drake album bomb cuts like No Friends in the Industry and In the Bible featuring Giveon and Lil Durk, they're out too. And yet, despite not getting an album bomb, we did get a decent number of losers here. Starting from off the debut, we got Moth to a Flame by Swedish House Mafia and The Weeknd hitting 54, Switches and Drakes by Moneybagg Yo featuring Lil Durk and ESTG at 86, and Let's Go Brandon by Bryson Gray, Tyson James, and Chandler Crump hitting 99, along with the other Let's Go Brandon song by Loza Alexander at 96, because none of these tracks have any sort of staying power. Thank God. Then we got our continued losers. Bubbly by Young Thug featuring Drake and Travis Scott at 56, Piss Me Off by Lil Durk at 89, and WFM by Realist K at 95. But as for the rest, a whole lot of money by Bia and Nicki Minaj at 85. It looks like it's falling away and looks to be just short of the year end. Also seems to be a similar case for A-OK by Ty Verdes at 52. And sadly also the case for My Boy by LV Shane and Memory I Don't Mess With by Lee Brice. And that leaves us with the fleeting viral success of Este de Nada by Ivan Conejo at 83 and the expected slow exit for Take My Breath by The Weeknd. Don't worry, this will likely make the year-end list too. But here's where things actually get kind of funny. We didn't get much in the way of gains this week beyond Big Energy by Lotto rising up to 76 off the debut, but we did see a lot of Halloween-related returns because apparently that's just going to be a thing nowadays with holidays, streaming, and the Hot 100. And thus we got a solid 4 returns here. The expected Thriller by Michael Jackson at 19, or Somebody's Watching Me by Rockwell with the uncredited Michael Jackson at 42, but also Monster Mash by Bobby Pickett and his Crypt Kickers at 37, and even Ghostbusters by Ray Parker Jr. at 40. Again, none of these are going to last, but it is interesting to see what's being canonized as Halloween songs that might become recurring staples, just like all the holiday music every year. Not sure how I feel about that one. But again, Ed Sheeran did not get an album bomb at all this week. Seriously, I checked the Bubbling Under charts and he barely notched any real traction there, which is both kind of surprising, but also a little bit disappointing as someone who likes the album, especially as Atlantic normally does a better job with all this, although apparently there were also sales delays and he never really drives his traction on streaming traditionally. But that means we only have 5 new arrivals on the Hot 100 this week, starting off with number 100, Ghost Town by Benson, Boone.
Maybe loving is the reason you can't love yourself. Before I turn your heart into a ghost town, show me everything we built so I can tear it all down.
So I can't be the only one who notices that we don't really get reality show songs to chart the same way they used to. There was a time when American Idol and The Voice could be guaranteed week after week of low-tier hits, but that age seems to be over. Or it's what I would have said before Benson Boone. This is actually a TikTok star who quit American Idol after reportedly getting to the top 24 because he didn't feel like the national spotlight was the right place for him, actually still developing as an artist. Not sure how a TikTok audience is better, but fine. This is the big song that he released since, and wow, this is pretty bad, not good at all. First off, while the muted piano work is pretty before we get the subtle patter of percussion and guitar, it is production without much of a personality and pop, and it can't really match Boone's voice, which has the feel of Harry Styles by way of Lewis Capaldi. The throaty delivery, a vocal tone that just feels very awkward, his belting that's got a lot more power than technique. All this would be rough even before we got to the content of this breakup song, and the Capaldi comparison feels flagrant here, if only because it's riding the same wave of self-deprecation that feels both oversold and yet revealing in ways that are neither attractive nor insightful. When you open up the track with the line, "You fill me up till you're empty," and then have the line on the chorus, "Maybe loving me's the reason you can't love yourself," 2 lines that feel condescending at best and brazenly miscalculated at worst, you're in for a dud. Maybe I could see this as a relationship song where he's just burning it all to the ground and then salting the earth because he's so tortured, he's not worthy of everything that she's giving him when he can't reciprocate. But the quasi-romantic, agonized framing feels really manipulative in the least interesting way possible. Compare this to something like Little Big Town's The Breaker or Dynamite by Sigrid, and it's really hard to ignore how amateurish and ugly and weirdly self-serving it all feels. And there's a part of me that wants to say that he turned American Idol down to make this, but somehow I get the feeling this might have come out the other side anyways. So yeah, it's bad. Next, number 82, Eat It by Megan Thee Stallion.
Kick you out, here's a towel, nigga, wipe your face. Eat it, till you break a sweat. Lick it all, give your all till you out of breath.
So Weird Al Yankovic already beat everyone to the joke, legit funny, and now we can delve into a cut from Megan's loose collection of B-sides and freestyles that she packaged to sell. And this, it's exactly as horny and brash as you would expect from Megan, and it's pretty fun in its own right, even if there is still some of that residual sloppiness and connecting rhymes together that you might kind of expect from a collection of Lucy's, but still gets on my nerves. That being said, while the actual groove and the trap percussion on the song courtesy of Murda Beats actually sounds pretty good, that looped chipmunk sample is just metallic and grating enough to test my patience, which is also why so many of Megan's hits can feel so hit and miss these days when she defaults to that sort of sampling. Still, I get how this would work, although I'm not sure on an album called Something for the Hotties, a song like this will actually hit the target audience, or at least who it's directed at, unless she's got men who fit under the Hotties label. I get the feeling I'm overthinking this. Next, number 81, Rap Freaks by Young Miami.
Ride a boat, sit on Megan face, ride it like a stallion. Everything we do is on a low, fuck social media. I wanna take a flight with Dirt, fuck 'em in India.
I guess since JT charted thanks to that song with Summer Walker that Young Miami had to get something going as the other half of City Girls. Alright, I'm not against that in principle, even if this feels like a fragment with a single verse and no hook. And alright, how many of you remember Barbie Dreams by Nicki Minaj, where she name-dropped so many rappers early on the album that she wanted to screw, and it just felt like an attention-seeking move that wasn't necessary for a long-delayed but much-hyped album? I really get the same vibe with here. Yeah, Young Miami is funny with some of her name-drops and references, which span everyone from Megan Thee Stallion to Future to 50 Cent and Diddy, but it feels like a gimmick that can't quite hide the fact that, again, no hook, and her flow feels a lot sloppier than it should against the horn melody. And maybe it's just me, but some of the guys she mentions give me the impression she's a lot less interested in the sex than the notoriety would come with banging them, and that doesn't really help the replayability of a song like this. So while I get it, I get the appeal, don't really care for it. Next, number 61, Demon High by Lil Uzi Vert.
Coming out of me, I won't ignite the flame. They're all the same. I won't forget you.
So, Lil Uzi Vert's putting out a mixtape with this is apparently a single from it. Maybe he thinks he can get this out faster than the much delayed albums in 2020, but honestly, I was kind of at least curious where the hell Uzi might take his sound, given that the whole sound of mainstream hip-hop and trap has changed like 2 or 3 times since when he first dropped. And I'll give him this, it kind of threw me. Way more of a focus on a fizzy, plinking groove that owes way more to pop than trap, with melodies that don't feel far removed from Trippie Redd on his more rock-leaning songs, and a sharper drum kit before we get to the attempted blending with a bassy trap drum machine that also kind of kills the momentum. But that pop focus is also kind of there in the content too. The framing seems like he's targeting a much younger demo. There's no actual cursing on the song. It's going for a much more scattershot emo rap balancing of flexing but also still whinging about girls that broke his heart. But now he at least seems somewhat self-aware that he could be the problem, which might as well count as a step forward from him. I mean, I don't know, I'm still not really much of a Lil Uzi Vert fan when it comes to his auto-tune delivery or a lot of his content, but this is just off-kilter and weird enough that I can't really dislike it either, and the hook is pretty good. It's not a bad song, it's an odd one, that's for damn sure. Take it or leave it. And finally, number 41, Overpass Graffiti by Ed Sheeran.
We'll never fade like graffiti on the overpass.
I'm not sure how to gauge with the fact that Ed Sheeran didn't get an album on stateside, especially as he certainly got one on the global charts, which made me think that something about the rollout didn't go quite according to plan. Or maybe folks in the States are only gravitating to him for the singles. Kind of a goddamn shame, because there are often the least interesting parts on what's probably a more interesting album. But yeah, this is probably his best single from Equals to date, not counting Visiting Hours, which was more just for promo, not an official single. And yeah, it wounds up as a pretty damn good song. It's certainly plays to the sort of hazy dance pop vibe, but it's far more convincing of the dreary undercurrents of 80s melancholy and nostalgia than Bad Habits was, even if I do think it's a little overcompressed and the falsetto backing vocals are middle of the road at best. But what I think the content is what really anchors this, a wistful reflection on an old relationship that didn't quite work, where her friends were even celebrating that he was gone, a dark parade as it will, and yet there's something about her that he never can quite forget. It's fleeting, he wants to get past it, but it's always there. It's some of those weird little details that can make or break an Ed Sheeran song, but certainly push it above any accusation of being soulless, and here, yeah, it works. Pretty damn good song, if not great. And hell, in fact, it's gonna be my best of the week here, with the worst easily going to Ghost Town by Benson Boone. Might be an unpopular opinion, but my god, that track's not any good. But that is this year, 2021, and this season of Billboard Breakdown. Hell, it might be a quiet week if I keep this up next week. For next time, we'll have to see. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown, affiliated with Spectrum Pulse. And next year, I'll see you next time.